This episode is sponsored by Fostering UK, one of the UK's premier fostering agencies. If you've listened to this podcast for a while, you will know that we do not promote things lightly. If we talk about it, it's because we genuinely believe in it. And this one's personal. Louise actually fosters for them. After years of difficult experiences elsewhere, particularly around poor support and lack of real therapeutic understanding for the children in her care, she transferred to Fostering UK, and they do exactly what they say they do. And that's rare in our sector. They are therapeutic foster care specialists. The support is real, the training high quality, the matching is thoughtful, and the relationships feel human, not corporate. They focus on quality, proper therapeutic training, minimal placement breakdowns, and genuinely putting carers and children and families first. So, whether you're completely new to fostering or you are an experienced carer feeling unsupported and thinking about transferring, this could be very, very, very different for you. If you'd like a personal introduction, you can email us at sarahanderson@fosterwiki.com or louise@louise-allen.com. Right, let's get into this episode.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Fostering Uncovered, the podcast that is really stacking up the numbers. My goodness, so many of you are listening to this program. Fantastic. Well, this edition is money, money, money. It's a rich man's world. Or is it? Or is it, unless you're a foster carer? Let's go for it, Sarah. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, how are you? You look amazing in your, is it your Dennis the Menace stripy jumper?
It is rather, but I think it's more Louise the Menace today.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there. So we have Louise the Menace and me. I've been given many names, but we won't go into them all now. Hello,
No, it's not
everybody.
enough time.
Lovely to be with you again. And my goodness, the numbers are just blowing our mind. It's fantastic. Without further ado, what's in this week's podcast? Firstly, we're going to do a news roundup featuring Josh MacAlister, of course, our old friend, his latest PR disaster, and then Counsel of the Week on the naughty step, although in this particular instant, it's not really funny, but we'll get to that. So this is not going to be a short podcast this week. So the beauty of podcasts, however, is you can break halfway yourself and call it episode 2 when you go back to it. But we're just going to get on with it because, like all things, we are going to be talking about the money side of things. You know, what we're not supposed to talk about ever. And it's quite long and complex. So let's get on with it. Firstly, this week's news. Well, in the news, there's been quite a lot this week, but we've whittled it down to a couple. So yes, we're back to our old friend, Children's Minister, Josh MacAlister, who can't seem to get out of the news. But Louise, I suspect it's not quite the way he intended. And probably it's taken him by surprise, given how confident he is with his spin and propaganda. So we need to talk about his latest moment. When someone says something is outrageous and explodes online, and when they come back with a so-called clarification that somehow makes it worse. Yeah, that. Josh MacAlister's released his follow-up statement after saying fostering isn't a job and that foster carers don't work. That was meant to calm things down, but frankly, it just poured an enormous amount of petrol on it.
I think it ignited everybody.
It ignited it. He said his words were clunky, and I have to note he's now got a new nickname around social media, and it's Clunky MacAlister. It's got a nice ring to it, hasn't it? That Clunky MacAlister. So his words were actually not. He said, "Oh, my wording was clunky about the no work, and it isn't a job." But he didn't say it was wrong. He didn't say it was unfair. He didn't say it was disrespectful, just clunky, which is political language, isn't it, for I meant to say exactly what I said. I just wish I'd landed it better, basically. Um, and for carers, it was frankly bloody heartbreaking. Another kick in the teeth, another reminder that the thing that you organise your entire life around, dedicate your whole life to, is still not recognised as real work by the people in power. I think what made it worse wasn't just a statement, though, it was what happened after. On his Facebook page, where he announced this statement, I don't think you can see it now, but if you go to my Facebook page, which is Sarah Anderson at Foster Wiki, you can see the full statement he made there. What happened after was any comment disagreeing with him on his Facebook page was deleted. All really reasonable, nothing trolling, reasonable comments from foster carers, and concerns and feedback deleted. They were blocked, the carers were blocked, and then he got rid of all the comments and switched off the comment button altogether. I mean, that's not engagement, is it? That's just managing dissent. It was quite
Wow.
extraordinary. People keep saying that, oh, engage with him. He'll listen, because there's been this latest thing where he met up, wanted to meet up with carers and things. Look, I've been trying to engage with him since the care review 4 years ago. Okay. Carers were ignored then, our surveys were ignored, our voice, our presence, our impact papers, everything ignored. Okay. It's only now, after he made that massive error of judgment about the fostering workforce and came out with those, it's not work, you don't work and it's not a job, that there are offers of meetings. Well, one meeting actually, total tokenistic access. And as you know, I turned down the offer because that was so that was management, not engagement. And it's not because that engagement doesn't matter, but because I am not going to be managed into a photo op version of consultation. The statement he put out tells you everything you need to know. There's no point in sitting in front of someone hoping for a rethink when they've doubled it down in public. I mean, why meet with this guy when he's doubling down on the same thing he's been doubling down on for 4 years in public? What really twisted the knife, I think, is how he uses children for his argument. Okay. He said, for me, the starting point must always be the child. And I want everyone to, from what I'm going to say, I want everyone to remember that, 35% of care leavers disproportionately feel the homeless, the prisons, not in education, and I might add as well, they have the highest suicide rate of anybody. They are dying out there. Care is not care, it's harm. And he dares to say, for me, the starting point must always be the child. Total hypocrisy. And yeah, sorry, I am saying it as it is, but I'm as angry as all the other carers are out there. And it quietly as well, what really makes me sick and angry is what he did. For me, the starting point must always be the child. So it quietly framed the carers, just for asking for really basic rights and protection, as selfish, self-centered, and as somehow not, they weren't putting the child first. Us, 24/7 with the children, him never fostered a child in his life, and he's turning round to us and saying, for me, the starting point must always be the child. And yet that government and all governments and all ministers have created the most terrible, terrible outcomes for children in care. Sorry, I'm getting a bit noisy here. Then there's another line, and I will go into all this. It will make the podcast longer, but it's really important. So the line about honestly, I don't know how he gets these children to say these leading questions, isn't it? And I think, frankly, some of it just might be made up. That he said the children don't want to feel like carers are clocking on. Well, honestly,
How would a child know that?
I know when exactly are carers clocking on? There's so
Child
many
needs to
carers
know what that is.
they're all on social media saying, how can we clock on when we never clock off? That's the
Yes.
whole point. It's 24/7. And his statement to these carers just showed years of being ill-informed, arrogant, trying to put foster carers in their place, managing a workforce. You just remember who you are. clocking on. It was not only was that was probably one of the most clunky things and so disrespectful. You're just clocking on if you're going to be workers. We already are, as you know. When did we ever clock off? So anyway, I'll finish my bit and then we go. So yeah, just basically, we know that fostering's already work. It's also nurturing love and help healing trauma. And those things are not and never have been mutually exclusive. What it does do is it suits his and the government's agenda to say so. So they continue to weaponize shame and blame to get what they want. They use the children to further their own agendas, political agendas, inflated salaries, cushy pensions, career ladders. It's a slippery slope out there. And the abuse and use of children and carers really makes me quite angry, or very angry, in fact, So the fallout is absolutely enormous. I've never seen this level of collective anger in the sector. And yes, being in the rooms matter, but not in that room, and not being used. So I think that it's just, and all the old propaganda just rehashed and new branding, they are never, ever going to give us, we respect you. At the same time, as I've heard it from insiders, they are actually trying to sabotage the workers' rights case by huge delays, I can't go into it, but what I've heard is shocking, okay, in how they're trying to dismantle and destroy that. So one hand he's saying, yes, we really respect you, and the next thing they're trying to destroy foster care even further. And that'll go back to your thing about why thing. So honestly, has there ever been a more unpopular minister? And the irony of that is he's probably the minister that knows most. Well, he doesn't know, that's the point, isn't it? Knows most about the children's sector, having run the care review. Everyone got quite excited when he was made children's minister. Now, I think if we did a poll, I think you'd find he's the most unpopular children's minister ever. Even to the point that I have had carers approach me now, genuinely, about doing a petition to demand his resignation. And I have never encountered that before. I mean, carers and children just don't deserve any of this, do they, Louise?
No, they don't. And it's interesting because previously the children's minister was these sort of people in roles that we all knew that we didn't even know who they were. They sort of wafted in and wafted out. And we didn't really pay much attention to them, and they weren't really paying much attention to us. In fact, I don't think many people knew that there was a children's minister. But this time it feels a bit odd. I wonder, you see, because I am constantly baffled as a foster carer and a writer, and I write about my experiences with, all the professionals and all the children in the sector, and I'm constantly baffled why how much energy and time goes into ruining it when how much less time and energy could go into making it fantastic,
Yeah.
at least workable. And I wonder what the psychology is because it feels so distant to something I could ever try and capture and name. But I think we need a psychologist to try and understand what is the emotional thinking from people in positions of the great and good who are destroying foster care and the lives of children, because that must be something. It can't just, it's just weird. You know, I
I
don't even
think I don't think we need a psychologist. We just need to wake up to the fact that it's politics. There are too many people that like the status quo. Imagine the organizations, the charities, all those big charities, Kinship, Fostering Network, Become, all making huge, don't forget charities, Eton School's a charity. So they
yeah.
just make and the children's commissioner, I mean, the millions that goes into that, and all it is sound bites. oh, this isn't good enough for children. I think we know that. But I think that this huge machine that it props up ministers' jobs, it props up policy departments, big departments. There is no appetite to hand us any power, to hand us our own sector. There is no appetite to change it because there's a lot of cushy salaries and pensions going on there. I think
Very
it's very simple, and I think it's very, I won't say corrupt, but I think it's, yeah, I don't know what the word is, but
murky.
murky, that's the word.
You know what I say? Bring in murky.
Murky. Fun about that.
Bring in the
Just stop
murky.
it. Stop it. They need to stop it. Stop it
right now.
now.
It's so weird. It's like it's a real. I feel it feels like a weird class system. It feels like the very posh are
Mm.
trying to. Ooh, this
All
going to
these
have
nasty
those
little foster
children.
carers.
There's grubby little children and they're grubby
Grubby
little
little
foster
children and
carers.
nasty little foster carers. Please get back in your boxes.
Yes, we're not going to, are we? We're not going.
No, no. And that's the really big thing at the moment. Um, yeah, and also I think probably through our campaigning, I noticed that my following on my pages has shot up recently.
Yeah.
Carers are now angry but informed. Years ago, I talked to a carer about the national minimum standards or statutory regulations or the children's minister, and they or the things that underpin their role. Oh, well, what's that? Carers now know. We've let them know. And they're
Yeah.
now, I've never seen so many carers use their own names in public spaces now. And actually, if you go on the latest one on my, and I'm getting like 100,000 views and stuff. If you've gone to the latest one on my Facebook page as well, I'm so proud of them because there's no ranting, there's
No.
no nasty, it is just pure intellectual, clever, honest feedback. And if you just read that one post, you'd know how to fix fostering.
Yeah, it's because foster carers don't involve themselves with the grubby world of politicians. It involves itself with us. What
That's
we
very true. Yes.
is true, and foster carers are from the most diverse, probably political backgrounds, but we have a very, very common theme, and that is we step up, we come towards
Yeah.
and help children because we're decent people and we do the right thing. And that has nothing to do with politics. But politics keeps trying to get in, doesn't it? And ruffle
Yeah.
it out and sort of disrupt our world. Well, we mustn't let it. And one of the things I think that I've noticed lately with when I'm talking to foster carers and I'm seeing their posts and I'm just listening to them is their level of critical thinking has shot through the roof. I think we had been kind of if it was a gender issue, I'd say that foster carers were the sort of put upon women who had been told that their place is in the home and that they should accept less pay. And but this is not a gender issue. This is about a role issue. It's about a part of society that does the most prolific, primitive, sometimes nurturing. So I feel like it's an attack on the very concept of nurture when we are absolutely bullied and gaslit by people often who don't even have their own children. And I know that you say, oh, people can work with children if they haven't got their own children. But my goodness, spot the social worker that's got their own children and those that haven't. The informed and the sense of reality is very, very different. So I'm wondering, the fact is that I hope we are in our way helping to educate people, not in a patronizing way, but open up the door to what's really going on in there. And to remind people who do the work of foster care that you're amazing. We
Yeah.
are amazing. We're incredible. So come on, let's stick together.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to go and start this money thing. I'm
Well,
not.
I just want to move on to we haven't done the council bit of news yet.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
I would like to just end by saying that agreeing with you, most carers are amazing. And I'd also like to say I am so, so sorry that you've had to put up with this this sort of shaming that he's the only one who thinks about the children and that you're not putting them first. I mean, you are putting them first every single day. Please know that. And
Mm.
please ignore this posturing and political climbing, because honestly, I'm so sorry that you have been subjected to this. Right, now let's move on to the council on the naughty step. Okay, so we have called we are putting councils on the naughty step, but I probably, in my view, this is a little too flippant for what we're actually talking about, because the truth is, this council isn't just being a bit cheeky or just done something a bit wrong. This is a council with a long history of serious failures, where I know the lives of children and carers' well-being put at risk, but children have died, and they continue behind the scenes to, well, from what I hear from foster carers, continue the same as they ever have done. It's Haringey, London Borough Council. Okay, now this is the same borough that oversaw the deaths of Victoria Klimbe, Peter Connolly, remember him, Baby
Yeah.
P. Two of the biggest safeguarding scandals this country has ever seen. Two children, years apart, same council, same systemic failures. And my foster carers from there are telling me that nothing has changed. So even in 2020, not so long ago, a High Court judge was still describing Harrogate safeguarding as root and branch failure. This is not ancient history. This is a pattern. So this is where it gets surreal. Are you ready?
Mm.
Haringey have just been rated outstanding by Ofsted.
Goodness me. Wow.
And well, because basically Ofsted turn up, don't they? The two or three chosen foster carers are on message on the
Yep.
council side to tick the boxes and leave. Meanwhile, you've got to remember 70% of children's services fostering, they're the ones that actually underpin the system. And Haringey routinely treat them appallingly. And if you're listening, Haringey, and you want a whole raft of evidence here, very happy to get it. Carers have raised concerns about neglect of children in care. They've been silenced. And we've got many examples of carers who speak about the moral injury of being asked to prop up an unsafe system. They've been then labelled as difficult. Had Ofsted done their job properly, confidentially, independently, and actually spoken to the wider body of carers, there is no way on earth they would have been given outstanding. No way. 8 years ago, Haringey had 200, I don't know, anyone can correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I can gather, they're 200 plus foster carers of their own. They're now down to 120. Okay.
Wow.
And they're not recruiting any. It's not a coincidence. Carers vote with their feet, they move to leave private agencies, because basically their council does not treat them with basic respect, value, or professionalism. And here's the kicker. Okay, here's the kicker. Because of that, Haringey driving its own carers away. Do you know that in the last few years they spent 40 million on private agencies?
Good grief.
Yeah, good blooming grief. Because they refused to look after their own carers. Let's face it, there's a big, huge employment tribunal, very public one, going on right now, bought by Haringey foster carers against Haringey. And from what I can't believe and what I've been told, their Mockingbird model was an absolute mess. Hub carers were left unpaid for months. Terrible feedback from carers who were supposed to be supported, not exploited. Now, I'm happy to stand corrected on that, but this is what the carers have told me. And the worst thing of all, Louise, for me, just to finish there, this outstanding, and they're all over LinkedIn and Twitter, all saying, we're so proud and we're just so wonderful and so grateful. And it's like, really, carers are just, Haringey carers are just, well, left feeling really despondent and distressed. The worst thing for me is that this outstanding rate just enables them. It enables them to continue to be rotten to the core and smile and congratulate themselves while they're doing it, because they fooled Ofsted, but they didn't fool us.
Amazing.
It enables them, doesn't it, to continue doing what they're doing
Well, absolutely it enables them. And then
with aplomb.
I don't understand Ofsted sometimes. I don't understand what they're looking at, or we don't understand any of that really, do we? Because it's all a bit murky. It's all a bit murky, dirty. So I don't
Oh,
understand. I don't understand. It's just such a shame. I don't know. We've been doing this a long time, and we know that it sometimes you feel that you're on a treadmill of misery with it. But I think what is happening is that I think they might begin to realize that without actually having foster carers, none of them have got any
God,
jobs.
no, no.
They'll have no jobs. So the more they kill off
Where are they
foster,
going to pull the children
yeah.
then?
Well, why?
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 Why? Yes.
Why indeed?
Why is that happening? We keep coming back to that, don't we? Because there is no appetite out there to move this needle. Not
No.
politically, not councils, not a thing. They are slowly decimating foster care. And yeah, why? Mm.
Why? Why?
We need someone to in the thick of it to come and tell us the why.
Mm.
Um, yes, well, okay. On the next note, let's talk about one of the touchiest subjects in fostering. Nay. It's used, abused, weaponized, and then it's wrapped up in shame and guilt, all in the name of getting care on the cheap. We have a postcode lottery, different payment schemes, depending on where you live and who you're with, who's commissioning you. Then every few years, someone swoops in with a big, shiny revolution of payments. We'll get onto that later, won't we? Which turns out not to be a revolution at all, but a tiny little gaslighting project that's come into cost save, where they call it leveling up, but actually, of course, they level down to the lowest common denominator. Um, and then everyone acts surprised when Ofsted ratings plummet, as they did in Devon. We did warn them. Well, we'll come to that. Um, and the differences between IFAs and local authorities pay, it's all been an own goal for years. If local authorities had paid respectfully in the first place, of course, they wouldn't have created that market for the independents anyway. So don't come moaning to me about, oh, the private sector's bleeding us dry. Look at Haringey, still can't be bothered to do it better. And now hiding behind an Ofsted outstanding, which is even more concerning. Payments are delayed, they're inconsistent, allowances don't stretch to real life anymore. Carers are topping it up from their own pockets. If you hit a gap between placements, no child, no income, no retainer, it's weeks and months of nothing. Often, as we know, like us, when you've given up full-time employment, as it's not possible alongside the needs of your children in care to hold down full-time jobs. I know they're advertising it as such. When it does work to a full-time job is when your partner has a full-time job and the main carer is at home. 64% of carers, however, it is their only job. So there's an inconsistency in, oh, come and foster, you can work, you can do this, it's just voluntary. No, it really isn't, because actually they put you in a position where it's impossible to work. So it's always been a red hot topic, hasn't it? And it never goes away because the problem never gets fixed. And sitting underneath of this is the old myth, isn't it? That you can't be loving, caring, and paid at the same time. And that talking about money somehow cheapens care. No, it's not only about the money. We know that fostering, but pretending the money doesn't exist is absolute nonsense. So the real question we're going to get into today is this: do foster carers get paid enough? And honestly, what would enough even look like? Because money does matter, doesn't it? Foster carers should never be afraid to talk about it, although they're shamed into not speaking about it. Listen, they have, just like anybody else who works, they've got a roof over their head, they've got the bills, and let's face it, they've gone catastrophic, haven't they, the bills? They're just like everybody else. It's you don't when you get money for a child in an allowance and you're not working, that's not just to go on trainers and food. That is to keep the roof over their heads. And yet the councils make it sound as though they're just giving you this pin money that must all be spent on the child, but actually, no, you can't work at the same time. So, skills, experience, emotional labour, and responsibility, I think, deserve to be recognised and paid for properly, like they are in another profession. So that's my opener before we get into it. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, well, that's a good opener, actually, Sarah. I think I'll just carry on because if the money thing, I just wanted to ask our listeners whether, I mean, I grew up in a working class household with parents that were much older than any of my friends' parents. They were born before the war. They were born sort of in the time of the First World War. That's how old my birth parents were, my adopted parents were. And we were never allowed to talk about money. We were never allowed to discuss money. It wasn't our business. And I think that that sort of culture, that way of thinking has been forced and carried through into fostering, where as foster carers, we're not really allowed to engage in those ideas and conversations where we feel guilt and shame if we talk about money. And it's another form of control. It's
Yeah.
another form of control over us. So I think the best thing we can do is, before we even ask whether foster carers are paid enough, we need to understand how the money actually works,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
most people, including carers, don't actually see the full structure. And the lack of clarity is actually part of the problem. Foster carers are paid in two parts: the allowance, which is meant to cover the child's cost, and the fee or skills payment, which is meant to recognise the carer's work. The crucial bit, the work. Only the allowance has has a recommended national minimum.
mm.
Okay. The fee
Don't
does,
forget IFAs lump the whole lot together, so it gets
yeah,
even more
yeah.
complicated.
The
Yeah.
fee doesn't.
Mm.
So there is no statutory to pay carers a professional fee at all.
Mm.
At
None
all.
whatsoever. Absolutely none.
Just, I've had foster carers saying to me, we get for this child £60 a week for
Mm.
everything. I'm thinking, well, that's two lunches out. Yeah, no.
And you're right. There are, and actually, there are some in Scotland still on £75 a week. I mean, that's not, it's not the norm down here anymore, but it's still, you're right. There's no statutory requirement. They're recommended allowances,
Yes.
and they are not, the government don't say you must pay this. They just, oh, well, look, here's a suggestion. And a suggestion it is, and it's how it's taken.
I know, but then they go to the marketplace. So the
Mm.
marketplace creates the fee framework. Some agencies bundle allowance and fee together
Yeah.
into one weekly payment. It sounds tidy, but it removes transparency.
Mm.
Carers often don't know what portion is for the child and what portion is their actual income.
Mm.
So,
Mm. Mm.
we usually go 50-50 split. But then
Mm.
when you 50-50 split £500 and you've got £250 for the child, bearing in mind all the stuff that you have to pay for the child,
Mm.
which we'll get into, then you're now splitting £250, usually between two people to work
Yeah.
24/7.
Yes.
Reality,
Yeah,
there's
that's a big one. So many couples foster, but they only get one. A lot of them, but two of them foster full time and only
exactly.
get one fee. Yeah.
Exactly. It's a devolved system. Each provider decides pay structures. Fostering is devolved. That means central government can recommend rates, but they cannot force
No,
local authorities or agencies to pay a professional fee.
no.
So every provider designs its own structure. That's how we ended up with the postcode lottery,
Mm.
not just in services, but in livelihood.
Yeah.
So depending on where you live, and who you have stumbled across, and remember,
Mm.
if
Mm.
you do want to know who to transfer to or to become a foster carer, do contact us first. Um, so it's a complete postcode lottery.
And for
Allowing
the
you
children. And for the children.
totally for the
Mm.
children, and they can experience several different results of the payment.
Mm.
So the children will say, "I never had that before," but then they might be going to a independent fostering agency foster carers who've got a little bit more money who can take them bowling into the cinema and take them out.
Or
This is
therapy.
all therapy,
Mm,
exactly
mm,
that. So yeah, so again, it's the children who actually are the ones that experience this
mm.
kind of madness. The allowance is meant to cover food, clothing, utilities, transport, activities, wear and tear. It couldn't even begin to cover that in my house. And the general cost of raising a child in 1903. But in 2026, my dear people, that
Oh
is
God,
not
the
even
corker.
slightly touching.
1903.
But
Oh
national minimum
God, it's
allowances,
like hysterical today. It's so bad.
but national minimum allowances haven't kept pace, really, with
Yeah.
inflation in household costs, energy, food, transport, all up. Allowances, not.
By
Not,
hundreds of percent, not even look at electric.
I
It's like
know.
400% higher than it was before. You just take that, mortgages gone through
Look
the
at a
roof.
can of soup.
Rent, a can of soup. I know.
Can of
Or
soup.
toothpaste.
If I
I
can
went to buy
slip,
some toothpaste the other day.
yeah,
It's like £7.50. I
£7.50.
like Colgate, you see. This is not sponsored by Colgate.
Really
This
not.
podcast is not sponsored by Colgate. I only ever use Colgate because my parents only ever use Colgate. It's one of those things. There was a Colgate's and they did special bloody 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 blah £7.50.
A can
Anyway.
of Heinz tomato soup,
Oh yeah.
nearly £2 a can.
No.
Yeah,
Yeah.
wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Olive oil. Or is that a bit?
no, that's always been expensive. That's always been for the people that shop at Waitrose like you. You send dried tomatoes. The rest of us are just happy.
Listen, olive oil is real. It's gone up so much.
Careful how
Virgin
you
olive
get
oil.
all that olive oil. Don't waste it. So all this really, we're in 2026, but if we're honest, the allowances haven't really moved since 2008 when we had the financial crisis. Remember that? The severe
Mm,
global economic
mm,
downturn
mm,
triggered by the collapse of the US housing bubble and the
mm.
subsequent crash in the subprime mortgage-backed securities, now believed to be connected in some way to their dodgy Epstein world.
Ooh, we are current, aren't we?
We are
Oh,
current.
we
We are
are
all current
current.
in the current
Oh,
band.
right up there we are. Right up there.
We are
We're
right
not such
there.
thick foster carers after all.
Oh, I don't
Oh,
know. But yes, and now all that rubbish is coming out and we're
mm.
having to, you can't avoid it. And I don't think there's anyone on the
3 million emails.
know about it. Joining all the dots was this,
Mm,
the fact that privatization has reached us in such a dramatic way, affecting our NHS and other services.
mm.
So our allowances haven't really budged since
No,
2008.
no,
And
no.
online with, the pay of nurses and,
Mm.
other services as well. So, so let's talk about what happens across the UK. England, Wales, and Northern Ireland have recommended minimum allowances. I love the way that it's always measured.
Yeah, I know. Actually, I think I spoke to someone in Northern Ireland the other day. I said, or was it, oh no, not, no, Northern Ireland. This, sorry, yeah, Northern Ireland haven't got any national minimum standards at the moment.
Oh, really?
No, no, they scrapped them about 5 years ago and it's taken all this time to redo
Rewrite
them.
them. Oh my
Just
God.
shows you what nonsense it all is. Yeah, Scotland, nothing.
Still doesn't have a universal national
No.
minimum. Although reforms are ongoing, apparently.
Oh,
Even,
allegedly. Oh, the
even,
promise. Remember that? The
yeah,
promise.
yeah.
Promise. Empty promises.
I know. And even with all this chatter in the background of it's ongoing, it might happen. But even with minimums existing, providers can and do pay differently. Back to the postcode
Yeah,
lottery.
yeah.
So,
And of course, it all of this, Louise, is because they don't have to. We
no,
don't matter. We have no standing. We have no rights. We have nothing. They can do exactly what they like, when they like, how they like.
And because we don't matter, the children don't
Yeah,
matter.
absolutely. Absolutely.
So there's also, how we were classified. Foster carers are classed as self-employed for tax purposes. Oh, don't we just love the end of the year? That means they have to register with, HMRC, manage tax returns, think about national insurance, pensions, all of
But you
it.
don't have a job.
Ah,
It's not work.
yeah, they are. Yeah, we are not self-employed in any real business sense. They don't, have you ever, I am freelance outside fostering, where I'm apparently freelance. They don't, we don't set our own rates. We can't negotiate our terms, which I do in every other realm of my life. They can't, diversify income streams, which I do in every realm of my life, apart
Mm,
from fostering.
mm,
And we can't market our services, which I do in every other part of my
mm,
life.
mm,
So
mm.
everyone else who is self-employed
Yeah,
is self-employed, but we carry all the tax responsibility without any of the
yeah,
autonomy.
absolutely none.
We're
Yeah.
the only ones that do that, apart
Mm,
from barristers, I think. No
mm, mm.
barristers, but we are, so we carry again and again. This is a reoccurring theme. We carry all the responsibility
All the
without any
risks,
professional.
a lot of the risk, to be honest, because
Yeah,
things go wrong, we get the
yeah.
blame. So that to me is carrying with the risk.
There is a tax scheme though called qualifying care relief. Did you know
Yeah.
that?
Hmm.
Which means many carers pay little or no tax on fostering income. But I think you need an accountant for that.
No, to be fair, the government did raise that, so that I think the credit where credit's due, they did put that up. I think won't go into it now, but I think it was from some very clever other reasons about keeping us, not working, not paying tax. Obvious.
That was
But it went up. I think about 2 years ago in the budget, it went up from 10,000 tax relief a year
yeah,
to 18,000. So you could earn 18,000 a year without getting taxed. Now, that is does get complicated because you do need an accountant. I had an accountant because didn't include the children's money, you get tax relief on that as well. So actually, very few carers will be paying tax on their money. But thank goodness, because when it's a pittance, you don't. And also, the irony is, they give it to you. Listen to this. They give it to you out of the children's money to pay for the children and pay for your skills from the government, and then the government tax it again.
yeah,
So that would have been a bit daft. Anyway, it is
yeah. But
now 18,000 a year.
yeah, so if you don't know about it, my darling fellow foster carers, it's called qualifying care relief. So write that
Mm,
down and
mm.
look it up if you haven't got an accountant, or maybe it might be worth getting one. But none
Yeah.
of this means that we are well paid.
Mm,
It just reflects how low and variable the income actually is. And also, there is no sick pay, no employer pension contribution, no
mm,
paid holiday, no guaranteed retainer between
no.
placements. If there's a gap between children, there's often a gap in the income too. Let's be honest, we've had an empty bed in our
Oh
home
yeah.
for a year. I kept photographing it. It became the spare room that we put everything in, the
Yeah.
dump room. Started off nice, so think about that. And that's not a small detail. For 64% of carers, fostering is their main job, as you have already highlighted, Sarah.
Yep.
Yeah, so let's move on to the expenses. And we have expenses, don't we?
Mm,
Which is where the system becomes inconsistent and sometimes, frankly, indefensible. We got mileage rules vary from place to place, from organization to organization. Thresholds for reimbursement, well, that's a movable feast. Delays in payment, I hear that again and again and again, mainly with local authorities, I have to be honest. Less so with IFAs that tend to be a lot
yeah.
leaner and more agile and have a better business administration system set up. Festive holidays allowances are inconsistent, if at all. Childcare training over cover is undervalued. So the irony is that if you have foster children under school age or they're not at school, you then have to figure out how you're going to get them looked after while you go and do your
Yeah,
mandatory
and pay them.
and pay for it.
Why
And
you go and do
that
the why you go and do this the provider's training?
And the buffet, my dear friends, which made any work-related event worthwhile attending,
It's
was
gone.
it's gone. So you had to take your
All
own
gone.
Tupperware of sandwiches. So, but when you get up at 5:30 in the morning just to organise your your
Mm,
training day, you will be met with the insult of actually having to pay for it yourself.
yeah,
Some IFAs do pay for you, and some local authorities will pay you to attend the training day, but £13 to £20 doesn't quite cut it if you're
no.
actually taking the
And it's
day on.
also, let's face it, like getting blood out of a stone.
Yeah,
And you might
goes
not be
back
paid
to
for
delays
six
in payment.
months after
Yeah,
you've gone to a training day. Yeah, it's
yeah,
it's it's really it's carnage out there, isn't it? It's your favourite saying, the Wild West.
it is. It does feel like the Wild West. You know, in it, none of this is, it's not symbolic. That structural undervaluing is what we keep seeing again and
Yeah.
again. It's a structure, it's undervaluing the labour we do. And remember, my darling foster carers, what we are doing is complex emotional labour. It's not just the folding of laundry. The folding of laundry is relief sometimes from the deep, complicated work we have to do, sometimes to keep our children
And
alive.
often for £1 an hour.
Yeah,
And
that's
also, don't you? I'm sure you'll agree with me. I think personally, we do one of the most important, most valuable jobs in society.
absolutely,
And
absolutely. But only we think that. Only we think
there's
that.
a reason for that. Cheap labour.
Cheap labour. Yeah, we're very cheap labour. And I don't like
Owned
being.
and controlled workforce. Actually, people make a fortune out of us. Local agencies, particularly, we add 250 grand or so onto the price of their worth of their agency. An agency's worth nothing without us. I think probably why agencies do tend to treat their carers better than local authorities. Local authorities seem to not really care whether they keep them or not.
Well, the local authorities are different, aren't they? I think we've always known that departmentally in local authorities, they don't talk to each other, like highways
Mm.
don't talk to whatever environment and blah, 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 blah. No one really talks to each other. So in children's social care, your child protection team don't talk to the fostering team that often, perhaps. And do they care about retention and recruitment? I shouldn't think it's up there on their agenda. They're protecting children. So when you're working with an independent fostering agency, that tends to be thought about in a much more cohesive way, the impact of one connecting to the other. So in local authorities, who are famously good at not communicating with each other, I think the price they are paying is that the foster carers feel a loss, at a loss, trying to navigate the not the communication, but mostly the lack of communication. And then when they start communicating, it's always defensive and angry because it's about them, not the foster carers, and definitely not the children. So it's a complicated mix, and I do think that underpins partly why the local authorities look like they are failing. I don't know if they are. They look like they are, and there's an exodus of their best carers
Yeah,
moving.
that's the irony of it, isn't it? They don't actually like their best carers, it feels like sometimes. Um, we've been into those sort of kind of reasons for another day, but yeah, we'll focus on the money now.
Let's talk about damage to the home, okay?
Yeah.
We've had a few broken windows from the stray footballs, tennis rackets, actually, not the tennis ball, tennis rackets thrown at windows. We've had things thrown out windows. We've had sofas jumped on, broken. Everybody's had the
Beds
television
are
smashed, beds.
often, yeah,
Yeah,
ruined
one
and
of my
mm,
one of my good pals, who's a wonderful foster carer, she lives in this lovely old house, and she has a big Aga in her kitchen, and she was looking after this little boy that was a little bit on the challenging side.
Mm.
He had fetal damage, and that is brain damage, let's be honest. And he couldn't understand
Fetal
in
alcohol syndrome.
both
Yeah. No. Yeah.
alcohol and drug.
Mm. Mm.
And he couldn't keep him. He was stemming all the time. He couldn't keep himself under control. He couldn't stand
Mm.
still. He was
Mm.
all over the place. And she'd got the trampoline in the garden. He'd bounced out of that a few times, quite literally. And she'd got him a scooter to go round and round and go round and round the garden. And when she was out of the kitchen doing some laundry in the laundry room right next door, he came in. She had opened the Aga door because she was making, I don't know, she's quite a good cook, souffle or something, where you had to have the door slightly open. And as he scooted past, he brought the door with him and took it off.
Oh no.
And that cost her £400. And
Mm.
I remember going round to see her, and she was very kind and whatever. And she decided to get another cheaper oven alongside it and rejiggle her kitchen, which again, so she had to pay another
Mm.
load of money, and she wanted to keep it. But that we worked out in total the cost she had to find herself to fund this frustrating house injury cost her a month's allowance and fees. So she effectively worked for free.
Yeah, and provided for the children for free.
Provide, yeah,
Yeah.
and she had other foster children there. So it was, people don't understand
No,
the
and could I
fact.
just say that actually, obviously, and we say it's obvious, but I want to say out loud for those people who don't think it's as obvious as us. We are not blaming the children. We know where this behavior comes from. It comes from trauma. So we're not talking about here about, labeling or blaming the children. But that doesn't mean it doesn't happen. And it doesn't mean that their anger or their trauma doesn't arise and they don't damage things. Doors get kicked in, cars are being keyed. The anger that's projected into the foster carer's home can sometimes be massive. A telly is smashed up,
Yeah,
people say, oh, all children damage things. Not like this. Now,
no.
obviously, you get lots of children who go inward and don't damage, but there is an awful lot of damage. I think what's really important to point out here as well is that in your fostering agreements and things, they say to the foster carers, oh, you have to have household insurance and say you've got foster children and be insured. That's not entirely true. The local authority is the corporate parent responsible for the child. They have their own insurance to make sure they carry that risk. But because foster carers are told and they don't like to argue, they are passing all that financial risk over to the carer. And that for me is deeply problematic.
Exactly. And we open our homes, which means that our homes become our workplaces. Yet when intentional damage happens and unintentional damage happens, standard insurance policies often won't cover it. Local authorities do hold their own insurers, as you say, but carers are frequently expected to absorb the excess, provide police reports, or carry specialist fostering insurance themselves. So again, we pay from that little
Yeah.
teeny.
And let me tell all carers, don't be fooled into this thing that you're supposed to carry the financial risk for their corporate children. You're not. They are insured for it. And it's disgraceful that they try to shift that risk
Yeah,
financially onto foster carers. Again,
absolutely.
cheapening everything for themselves, putting all the burden on the carers.
Absolutely. So here we go. Once again, professional responsibility or without, sorry, it's our professional responsibility given to us by them with personal financial risk
Yeah,
totally to us
yeah,
because you
yeah.
can't get that money back. No matter what they say to you, oh, don't
Mm,
worry about it, put a claim in. You will not get that money back.
mm.
And I'd love to hear from people who did get money back from the
Yes, I think there
damage,
are
how you
some,
did
and
it.
things, if you get the right support, and go to the, various. I won't do a big advert for us now, but you need to know how to ask for it and what to quote, and
Absolutely.
what laws to quote and what standards to quote, and what to say. It's all in the
Yeah.
standards and the national regs. So do come to us if you are having problems here, and we'll write you an email. Should we
So,
go to a break now?
oh, can I just get that little
Oh
bit?
yeah, go on then. Sorry, did I cut you off in your prime?
Yeah, you
I'm
did,
good at
don't
that.
you?
That's my best skill.
So when people ask whether foster carers are paid enough, they're often looking at a headline weekly figure. Okay, so you'll see that figure when you go onto the websites. You'll see what the weekly figure is, and it can be. I'll give you some detail on that in a minute. It can be anywhere between £60 a week and £700 a week. Is the postcode lottery, but what sits underneath that number is far more complex, and this is what you should all know about. Inconsistent structures, no guaranteed professional fee, self-employed tax responsibility, no employment protections, personal financial risk. So you must absorb all that before we go into the break. Foster carers carry professional level responsibility with self-employed level risk and without the employment rights most professionals take for granted. That's fostering.
Oh, I like that. That was a nice little segue. So
Yeah.
can we now go to a break?
Yes.
Yes, right. Let's go to break. We'll see you afterwards. This is an advertisement for Foster Wiki Support Plus, the premier support services for foster carers by foster carers. This isn't generic support as you know it. It's real backing from experienced carers who understand the job, the pressure, the responsibility, the isolation, and who stand alongside you professionally. And here's what carers absolutely love. Many of the top-rated national foster carers qualifications are included free in membership, and others are heavily discounted. They're not tick box courses, they're nationally recognised and can count towards accreditation. So if you want to be an accredited foster carer, this is a powerful place to start. We offer them because we believe foster carers deserve professional standing, recognition in teams around their children, in being informed, educated and confident. So support, qualifications, accreditation, go to fosterwiki.com and click on Foster Wiki Support Services to join. Honestly, for just £6.99 a month, you can change your fostering world and have backup you never dreamed possible. Welcome back. Me and Louise are just having a little dance in the interval. Chuck eyes, anybody? And oh dear, I've really lost the plot this week. I'm supposed to be a serious journalist, yeah? No hope. Okay, let's go into, I'll do a little bit here on inequality, postcode lotteries, and the big con. This is where the system becomes political, exploitative, is that the right way of saying it? And harmful. So the postcode lottery, we've already done a bit of this. Regional variation in allowances and fees, local authorities versus IFAs, the differences. The local authority, a complete mixture of it's devolved. So it's devolved. So it's their own decisions, and they always separate allowances and fees. IFAs mostly pay higher, but allowances and fees normally presented as one payment. It's so complicated, isn't it?
Yeah.
Many all get the same payment, although I think that's changing. People are starting to recognise, different skills level. And then they come in to level up and always level down. Kinship care inequality, I think we should mention that. Kinship carers do the same job as us with much less support, the same trauma, less money, less recognition. And we enfold kinship carers. Kinship carers out there, you are us. And I think the government have been very clever in separating you off into other organisations. And I will unpack another time Josh MacAlister's latest propaganda on his marvelous new approach for foster carers and the millions he's putting in for it for 3% to do a pilot for 4 years. And do you know what the pilot is? To see if it works paying them. I mean, you couldn't make it up. Anyway, but kinship carers, we are there with you. We know your issues. Join us. We are all on the same page and we all care for traumatized children. So then we get the benefits contradiction. Basically, when you advertise to new carers that you give them a manual on how to claim benefits, you're publicly saying, aren't you, your pay is so low that you probably need to go on benefits. So also, is it acceptable for taxpayers to subsidize private agency profit? So if somebody who works for a private agency has to go on benefits to do their job, the taxpayer is paying that. Now, I know a lot of private agents. We're very pro private agency here, very pro private agency. But there are some very, very big ones that do make very big profits, which are a bit scary. We have invited someone on to talk about that, but I think he keeps getting cold feet. But, is it acceptable for the taxpayer to be subsidizing profit-making private agencies so that their carers can carry on working and they can take the profit? Not sure about that. So the skills fees nonsense. Skills don't disappear because of a child's needs change. For instance, there's such a big nonsense about paying your skills fees in comparison to the child's needs. Your skills remain the same. You have earned them by experience, by training, by qualifications, by hard work. You are a skilled foster carer. Just because a child comes in with less or more needs, and who can judge that anyway, let's face it, doesn't mean you should be paid less. It's like, for instance, you wouldn't reduce a social worker's pay because half of their foster carers were a bit easier than the others. So we're not going to pay you quite as much because we know you've got June and Denise and Les, and they're very compliant and easy. So we're only going to pay you half the amount for them. It doesn't work, does it?
No, it's not.
Skills belong to the carer, not the child. So the big con, Devon was a fantastic example, and this happens all over the.
Oh, I remember that.
And actually, the guy who swept in at Devon and did Mr. Charm personified to start with, and everyone sort of fell for it until a bit later on when it's too late, I see has moved about now. I think he's working for Janet Rees.
Isn't Janet? Isn't Janet Rees?
Jan Rees of Foster Care Associates.
Our FCA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's, I don't know, he's moved on. I think he came from Pembrokeshire, I think, and then I won't name any names, but he came from Pembrokeshire after decimating them. Pembrokeshire in a terrible state now. Then he moved to Devon, who we now know, of course, have apologised to foster carers for treating them the way and for letting down children, which was exactly what you and I personally said in person there at the cabinet meeting, didn't we? All those years ago.
Oh, I remember that.
Now it's all come true. So Devon are now spending millions and millions and millions on IFAs because the foster carers have legged it. So what they do is it's a helicopter in somebody, Josh MacAlister would be good at this job, actually. Big smile, confident, I love you all. And then they go on to divide and conquer between the different levels. They tell the level ones carers, you're just as good as the level 3 carers. You all do the same day's work. Then they cut the level 3 pay down to level 1 because they're leveling up. So you'll pay for higher needs, then suddenly, but then they say, well, we will give you an extra money if you've got higher needs children. Guess what happens then? All the children become low needs. I had one Devon carer saying that she had a child in a wheelchair, 15 years old, wore nappies every day, non-verbal, couldn't walk, had to have a hoist to get into bed. And they were just average needs on paper. She got no skills fees for that. So what outcomes does that produce? The workforce destabilised, morale destroyed. Devon now rated inadequate and doing public apologies for the way they treated carers. So these, helicoptered in, they sweep in, divide the workforce, sell a fake deal, leave with savings for cabinets, not carers or children. And frankly, the savings are like 500,000 or something, and then they go and, because it looks good on the day, then they say, oh, we saved the council 500,000. Then they go and spend 84 million on private placements. It's utter madness, and it's not levelling up. It's financial engineering at the expense of carers and kids.
Yeah, it's just
all leaves you a bit speechless, doesn't it?
The
When you
lunatic
say it
has
out
taken over
loud.
the asylum. It's like I don't under, you know, often when we talk about this, we when I'm listening to you and you're listening to me, I think in one part of our mind is going, this is nuts. This is all nuts. It's
What? What?
crazy.
What?
It's just sheer
It's
craziness.
just it's just a long list of craziness.
Oh my goodness.
Oh dear, oh dear. Anyway, you can go now.
Oh my goodness. I don't go where? I don't go lay down in a dark room.
Go to dark room, lie down under a blanket and hum quietly to yourself.
Yeah, I do because I just feel that. I mean, they make me
I've
feel that
been,
I've got a
that's where
business
I've
friend.
been. I told you I've been feral.
Oh
Feral and
God.
I don't know,
Yeah,
just
when you
oh,
know, and how does this impact
oh, how does
on
it impact everybody?
children? How does it impact on their own recruitment and
Well, we
retention?
know
You know,
4 years on the trot,
you
it's
know,
all going down and down and down, isn't it?
when a council can't recruit or retain enough in-house foster carers, they have to commission placements from independent fostering agencies, and those placements typically cost the authority. So they're paying, they could, why can't they just look after their own carers? You know, and
Yeah, yeah.
I remember when we were with a local authority, and I'd be thinking, why don't you just treat us well? I mean, just sort of hello and how are you would be quite nice. So it's a higher weekly fostering rate that they pay. They plus fostering agency overheads, plus profit margins for commercial independent fostering agencies. And then they get stroppy, and this is actually real life experience, is when you
Real life experience.
real life
Real
experience
life experience.
is that when you are with a fostering agency and then they're trying to um, do something which they can't do, so they're resenting paying. They get very dirty. They can get very dirty and
Mm,
underhand in how they do things. And I've been and my husband have been put in situations where you feel like you're working with a second-hand car dealer, you know, who's trying to get you to buy their car and not the nicer one up the road, but they can be a little bit dodgy and it all leaves a bad taste because every foster carer I know with good faith comes into this in good faith to
yeah.
work with the children, expecting quite rightly that the people who are around that activity do their best to make that possible. And what you sometimes feel is complete sabotage. And I think the
Mm.
finances feel like complete sabotage. So in many cases, the total is significantly higher when the council pays its own carers. So, you know, pays. So why can't they look after their own carers?
I know
If
it's madness. We've been saying it for years and years,
well, they're
and they just
paying.
get ignored and ignored.
Well, they
I mean, I
soon
think
haven't
they're
got the.
actually starting a little. What makes me laugh is one, I can't remember which council recently, local councillor was bigging them up and saying, this is incredible. They've now significantly raised the price of for their foster carers, and wow, proud of them and all this sort of malarkey. They hadn't even dragged it up to a sort of average median
Well, they can.
amount. It wasn't even, it was so embarrassing to read,
It's
you
just
know.
pathetic, and they don't, obviously, we talk about departments not talking to each other. They don't even sort of brief their PR people can't brief each other because if councils can afford 800 to £1,000 plus per week for an external placement, could some of that investment have been used to retain and value their own carers better? Why not?
I
What is
know.
the problem?
Well, do you know, that does make me wonder sometimes because there's got to be something deeper there. I think agencies charge more than that. But you've got to remember when a carer goes to an agency,
Yeah.
the local authority don't have the risk of the carer. They don't have they don't have to review them every year. They don't have to give them a social worker. So there's a lot of overheads included in
Yeah.
that. So say it's £1,500 charging a local authority. There's a lot of overheads in there that the
Yeah.
council aren't having to pay for, except that the councils are so badly organised. Bear, bet they barely even feel that. And they don't reduce their staff because of it. So you might put out, to £40 million worth of private agencies, But that doesn't mean they save money at their end by getting rid of some of their staff. So
Mm.
it is complex, but at the end of the day, there is no doubt about it. On the whole, private agency foster carers are paid more than local authority carers. So that comparison in itself is why it's silly. You wouldn't be here if you hadn't have done that. And it's not just, as we know, foster carers actually, when you ask foster carers about fostering, you'll find that money actually is way down on the list.
Yeah.
You find that mostly there are other reasons they foster. I know there's been, the fostering network recently said, oh, carers are all leaving because they're not paid enough. That is not true. That's a bit more propaganda so they can just sweep over the real reasons that carers are leaving. But of course, money is terribly important. Here's another thing, I think. Carers shouldn't just be paid. Why should they just be paid on the breadline? Shouldn't foster carers be allowed to expect a decent standard of living for what they do? It's as though you're shamed. I mean, I think you've had this where social workers have, and again, let's do that whole thing. It's not every social worker, and we know lots of fabulous ones out there, and a lot of it's because they're tired and drained as well. But I know foster carers and social workers walked into foster carers' houses and said, yeah, you get paid all right, don't you? Look at this lot.
Well,
And
mine was
found that actually the money's actually come from the husband's job, not the foster carer's
well
job.
when we were well, mine's even harsher to hear because I grew up in care and had absolutely nothing and have made all my own money, then got married and then combined that money. So the house that we live in is shared and split in terms of the financial investment and what we do. And then one day I was up in the front room. I do live in quite a big house, but you have to check out my neighborhood to understand how that is balanced out. Is that I was folding some laundry up. And also, I come from an aesthetic background, so my house looks really nice. It's a really nice house, and I've got a beautiful garden. And I was folding up the washing, and then the two social workers, the manager and the social worker, come along, and the windows were open because it was a hot sunny day, and I heard them say this. See, I told you she lived in a big house, and the other one went, "How the did she do that?" Did I
Oh,
just swear on I'm so sorry, but that was a
on
direct.
bleep. You do it again and I'll do a bleep. How the go on.
How the
Bleep.
did, did she do that?
We aren't posh enough to have actual bleep machine.
But I mean, I was just like, good God, then that just
Oh, but
that
seriously, yeah.
one comment
Yeah.
just meant that maybe we should be doing it for free if we have money. The fact is, I've worked every
It's a
practically
shame
of
thing
my
again.
life,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
aiming that we want remuneration that reflects the work we do
Mm.
because we are meant to love the children. And trust me, we don't love all the children, but we do right by the children because we are professionals, and that's the difference. So it's a very, it's all a bit weird.
Murky.
Local, yeah. Well, if local authorities are consistently paid respectful professional fees in the first place, then they may not have created such a strong external market for the agencies to fill. Dear local authorities,
Absolutely.
you handed this over on a plate to
Own goal, I always say.
independent fostering
Mm.
agencies. And if they are entrepreneurial, and don't forget that a lot of these independent fostering agencies were set up by social workers,
Yes.
the local
Yeah.
authority.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I can do this better.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they have made it into successful businesses or sometimes empires is there it was their gift that they gave to them. All they ever had to do was play a decent game themselves and treat foster carers properly.
And also, carers don't leave a local authority and go, well, they obviously often they leave for a lot of reasons, and most of it's about treatment, respect, being treated professionally, blah blah blah. They move to an agency, but they don't move to an agency because they want to make a killing. They move to an agency so they can actually continue to survive and do the job. Now,
Uh,
I know that lots of local authorities are starting to up their game, but what saddens me most Is it only up in their game because it's starting to affect them?
Yes, yes. Yes, well, that's absolutely crystal clear. And some people say, but oh, councils are bankrupt. How can they pay more? You know, Simple. The question isn't whether children's services are under pressure. They are. The question is whether the people providing 24/7 care in their home should be the shock absorbers for that pressure.
Yeah.
We
Well,
should
because you
not
simply
be.
won't have any anymore.
No,
You know,
no.
um, and unfortunately, there's not enough. I know there's a certain journalist, isn't there, who's always laughing and saying there's nothing wrong with it, it's all working perfectly, and I just do it, and the money all goes to the children. But of course, that's it. He's in a very privileged position, and they have 20 years of pensions from famous newspapers or accountancy firms and everything, which is great. And if they can afford to foster for next to nothing, it's lovely. There are so few people like that who come forward to foster.
What are you
Very, very
actually
few. Maybe
teaching?
there's just the one.
What are you actually teaching the children? Because you will be creating almost a spoilt culture within your household if you
Mm,
are not
that's true.
explaining about the overheads and the costs and the
Mm,
budgeting. We are meant to be preparing these young people to live independently. They need to know that there is a sacrifice. They need to know that they need to be organized in their finances. And you can't do that if you go, oh, go on, you have all the money, darling. I've got plenty
mm.
myself. That's not fostering. That's a
No,
hobby. That's some sort of
it
virtual.
is a hobby at that point, yeah.
Could local
Shall we
authorities
move on to what
pay
should it
better?
look like?
Yeah.
Values, reality, and the way forward. The moral debate. Are carers in it for the money? Professionalism versus altruism. Why this is a false choice. You can be loving and paid properly. The recruitment and retention reality is you can't attract carers while advertising poverty wages and saying they're all going to have to go on benefits. You can't retain carers while destabilizing pay and having no security. You can't preach value while paying carers like volunteers. And you won't attract the people our children need by advertising how people can claim benefits. Um, in my opinion, now, what should it look like? Frankly, the sort of financial side is honestly one of the most divided subjects in our sector and indeed our own workforce. Everyone's got a take on it. But here's the thing, I don't think anyone seriously argues about transparency. Nobody else, there has to be transparency. Like at the very least, pay structures, allowances, fees, they should be clear, visible, and honest. No smoke and mirrors, and it's all covered in smoke and mirrors. My view comes from being sort of properly immersed in this sector, what, for 15, 16 years, like we have been together. For me, it makes total sense that carers should receive a skills fee for what they bring. And the reason for that is the allowance should then sit with the child and the fees, sit with the carer. And if a child has higher needs, that allowance should reflect that, not the fees part of it. The fees remain with the carer because that's their qualification, their experience, their everything. What should change is the allowance. So if a child comes in with higher needs, that allowance reflects that. It's simply because you're not just paying for a bed, you're paying for skill, emotional labour, as you said. You're paying for stability, experience, and the ability, I'd say, to hold complexity without everything falling apart. And that is a real skill. You're paying for trauma responsive carers, therapeutic care, you name it. So they'd never walk into a local authority and say, right, these social workers have got a few easy cases this month. We're going to knock a chunk off their salary. I think that's a really important point. It would be absurd. So we live in a meritocracy everywhere else. Managers get paid more than frontline workers. Directors of children's services get paid more than managers. They're all, in my view, doing a day's work, but the pay reflects experience, responsibility, level of skills, training, etc. So why aren't we pretending foster care is any different? A brand new foster carer on day one really shouldn't be paid the same as someone who's been doing this for 10 or 15 years, and ones that invested in training, I know, built deep relational skills. I don't know, they've held trauma, haven't they, in their home for years on end. And, that's not fairness, that's leveling down. And the important thing for me is it kills incentive. Where there's motivation, where is the motivation then for them to grow, learn, personally develop, to keep learning? If you're paid exactly the same for someone who's getting paid on day one, why would you bother to think you have to do more training or more anything or develop yourself? And that is crucial, as we know. When you look at other countries, right? Take France, for example, they've got a central licensing body. Carers are paid a proper month. Now, their carers are employed. Okay. I'm not saying that's what carers want in this country. Most seem to want to stay self-employed, but just be recognised in the right category of self-employment that we are in, which is worker. We are misclassified. We're not asking something new, which makes Josh MacAlister's argument complete nonsense. We're already what we are. Nothing's, he keeps claiming it's all going to change because we want to be a worker. No, we already are that. And if anyone wants to find out where you understand that, put HMRC worker status into Google, and it will give you a full, easy to access lowdown on what that really actually means. And you go, oh, now I see. Okay, so get out there and do that little bit of research. Carers in France are employed. They're paid a proper monthly salary based on their skills and experience. Then each child that comes into their house brings their allotted allowance with them. And if that's a higher needs child, that allowance follows the child. It does not impact on the foster carer's monthly salary, which stays there regardless of whether they've got kids in or not. Okay. There's real skills progression that just can't be erased on a whim. There are, the retainer between the placements, I would say, is the salary. They get proper holiday, sickness, and respite policies. Do you know they get a pension after just 10 years of working? They get a full pension after that. So it's, our national finance stuff. I mean, basically, it's just been a race to the bottom. And this bit matters. An honest recognition that fostering for me is skilled emotional labor, not charity, not goodwill, not you should do this for love. We'll all keep, you'll keep you financially precarious because you're just doing it for the love of. And don't forget, this is nothing like what is advertised to foster carers in those fluffy adverts. Poverty cheapens care systems, and you can't take a child out of poverty to put them back in it. How is that okay? You can't build stable, loving, fostering homes on financial insecurity. You just can't.
You really
That's my last word.
And it's the financial insecurity and risk to home, risk to your food, risk to the very basic Maslow's hierarchy of needs, everybody. The very basic stuff that foster carers are then faced with. We're asked to get to the top of that pyramid in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, almost from the off. But when you're actually wondering whether you can pay your rent, pay your bills, your child needs some new trainers, and you need to buy some decent trainers that cost over £60, you're in trouble. Sometimes you can be in
Don't forget the phones.
all of it. And what is really horrible is that foster carers who have the right hearts, the right motivation, end up in sticky financial situations which keep them fostering, not because of the work that they are trained to do, because they have to do it to survive.
Yeah.
You're back in full circle of where the child came from. Because trust me, when you're worrying about money, you are a different person. You are a different person. And we don't want those persons to be looking after deeply complex, traumatized children. We need people who are relaxed. So just paying what we are worth, recognizing our value, and treating us respectively with the dignity that all professionals should be treated with, we will then continue much better to keep stable placements and to help children into the next part of their lives informed and ready. And before they crash out, tumbling down at 16 and 18. And there is another story that we
Yeah.
will get into another day. But if you want something, you pay for it.
Well said. Very well said. And I think on that note, we will end. I want to say that we will not have covered everything. So you can either, we'll put the emails in the show notes. You can either email me at FosterWiki or Louise. And say you forgot to say this or you forgot to say that, or I found this is a really bad issue. Write to us and tell us, and we can say it on the next issue. Now, sorry, episode. Now, next week we've got a very important podcast on allegations, and we've got a guest, a big guest who's going to walk us through his own allegations and the effects on his life. He happens to be one of the top paediatricians in the country and has got a CV as long as your arm, and impressive isn't the word. So we wanted to bring him on the show because he is, measured, experienced. Oh, did you know he's also child safeguarding lead? And when
Yeah.
you hear for many hospitals, when you hear this story, I think you will be, it personifies everything that we need to fix. So we will look forward to Chris joining us next week, and we look forward to you joining us next week. Please keep your feedback coming in, good or bad. We want it all. So it's goodbye from me.
And it's a goodbye for me. And I wish you all a lovely week and speak to you soon.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.